So I've been on the record with my reservations about this England team and Steve Borthwick, but this time let's go super positive and let's talk about a potential grand plan that the RFU might have, a sort of World Cup 15 that Borthwick might be working towards in a best case scenario, talk about that viewer vote on his future, and also talk about after Steve Borthwick. Is there a plan? Well, I hope there is. If there is, maybe it's something like this. So this is kind of me fantasising a bit, but I think there's going to be a bit of truth in it as well. And this video is supported by Sports News Blitz, once again, a great place to go for sports content and also great podcasts, so do check them out. Here is the result of the vote. Should Steve Borthwick go right now? Over 1,000 respondents, thank you so much, and it's very, very close. 52.7 say yes. Now, there's lots of logical reasons why you wouldn't, so I think the takeaway here is fans are actually pretty annoyed. Now, if it's a good Six Nations, that might change, but at the moment, it's definitely on the fence. So, let's talk about Steve Borthwick. His performance review is coming up. I'm pretty sure he will keep his job at least until after the Six Nations and maybe after. So in his review, he might argue that a bit better execution against New Zealand and England might have one win away and one win at home and things look a lot better. But also against the best, the attack has definitely struggled, although it did cut loose against Japan. Scrummaging maybe has exceeded low expectations slightly. The Jamie George-led line-out is still okay. Though the blitz defence is, of course, the talk of the town, and it's definitely really, really poor when you're blitzing on every single thing. The winger is trying to bite in every single time. It's making them look bad. Is Ollie Slightholme a bad defender? Well, I'm going to watch the Premiership and decide for myself. At the moment, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt because they're being told to blitz from out to in and selling themselves out. It does look like Joe Lab has been tasked with carrying on with the Felix Jones type defence rather than being allowed to do his own. So I think he needs to be given licence to completely revamp it, give him a chance to make his stamp on it and then judge it. We will see definitely in the Six Nations if that changes. My worry is they don't, but this is a positive video, so let's say they do. Borthwick might also start to think he needs to let go of some older players, maybe in 2025, the beginning of 2026, and search for a little bit more world-class talent. And with the summer of the Lions there, it might be a perfect time to do that. So maybe in the summer we will see some new talent emerge, and then a stronger England emerge after that summer in the autumn and then in the Six Nations in 2026. Now, other things going in Borthwick's favour are his contract is up until the end of the 2027 World Cup. It would cost the RFU a couple or a few million to buy him out, and you've got to find a replacement as well. So I don't think they want to do it. I don't think that Borthwick and O'Shea are going to get their performance bonuses with these results, but he's going to stay in charge. And I think barring a disaster in the Six Nations, beyond that, he's also the first England coach, remember, to have the power to distribute these new enhanced EPS contracts. He started doing this, so changing that strategy now might be a waste, so they're going to let him do that, I think, give out all those contracts and see how it works. So to put it simply, I think he will stay till the end of 2027, barring a disaster. I think that's what the RFU really, really want. So I'm going to put my own spin on this as well and pick a team that I think Steve Borthwick could well take into 2027 if he makes some good decisions, if young players come up trumps as well. Could this be a team that competes at that World Cup and be successful, whatever you deem that to be, of course? Could he stick with an experienced front row of Genge, maybe Cowan Dickey and Stewart? Father Time, I think, will catch up with Jamie George by that World Cup, but maybe he will stick with those old heads there. And then on the bench, he might have some youngsters. He might have Theo Dan, he might have Finn Baxter, Apoko Fajor again. So I think it could be a mix there. Second rows, I can't really see changing too much, but maybe Itoje gets a bit less game time. He's a little bit slower than the others, and maybe we see the Martin-Chesham pairing become the preferred one. And also, let's say those hybrid contracts lure back Junior Kapoku from Racing 92 after his extension, I think it's about 2 years, and he comes back into one of the Premiership clubs and emerges as one of the best talents we have. So he is on the bench. I did say this was a bit of a fancy land, but I would love it if that happened. Itoje still in the wider squad for his experience, for his leadership. So I'm going to say in the back row there is a bit of a change. It's a high attrition area. Maybe some of the sevens, Curry gets injured again, Underhill gets injured again, and maybe Henry Pollock and Guy Pepper get given a chance and they're so good they keep the shirt. And because Henry Pollock is such a rampaging number 7, not the biggest, but goodness me, so much energy, he takes over for 2027. And we have the big man Cunningham South, the little nippy guy Henry Pollock, and then Jack Willis is so good he takes over at 8, and Benel has an impact role off the bench where he's used as a runner at 7 and 8. In the backs, I see Mitchell and Smith carrying on, with Finn Smith swapping roles with Marcus Smith, and Marcus Smith changing up to 15 occasionally for extra attack. In the centres, we have a big boon. Ollie Hartley comes good for Saracens. He'll be about 25 come that World Cup. He'll be about 17 stone. He's 6'4", power running, good pace. He could be that all-rounder at 12 we need, and the big guy to take the ball up. And players like Ollie Lawrence, who's very experienced at this point, is allowed to roam at 13. Then we get a little bit more of an injection into the backs. We have Josh Hodge and Furbank fighting it out for the 2 15s, and maybe Hodge takes over by then. Fawabusu still on one wing, and on the other wing we have a real bolter. We have Tyler Afire, son of Martin Afire, 21 at this point, who brings that long-range speed and height to the party. And because England are now playing a really exciting runny game, Will Porter's on the bench at 9, and Tommy Freeman is that ideal 13, covering all the outside back positions. So that is my fancy. That's what's going to happen come 2027. Borthwick's going to stay on. He's going to make some great decisions. And this is the sort of exciting team we see in the World Cup. And they have a great World Cup, whatever that means. I'm not going to go too far down that rabbit hole. I've done enough of that already. So now the World Cup finishes and the RFU stick to their plan. They don't carry on with Borthwick. They don't renew his contract. They've got a plan. They stick to it. And that's to look to the future. Who's it going to be? Is it Phil Dowson of Northampton, Rob Baxter, the experience of Exeter? Checker comes into it, maybe O'Gara. Do they go back to Lancaster? These are all guys who have been chucked around. Their names have been chucked around. Well, no, of course it's Andy Farrell. You've seen the thumbnail anyway. He is at the end of his contract in 2027 after the World Cup. He'll have had 8 years with Ireland, 11 in total if you include his assistant coaching. And that's probably about the right time to move on with his head held high, however they do in the World Cup. And there's going to be no bad blood there. And he moves on as a proud Englishman to coach England as the head coach. He's in his 50s, in his absolute prime, and he willingly accepts the role. Now he turns to the job of recruiting his team as assistants. Maybe some of the Irish coaches follow him to England. Maybe Mike Catt comes back as attack coach. Or maybe it's the perfect time to lure one of my favourites, Nick Evans, away from Harlequins to impart his attacking magic on England. Maybe the well-travelled Graham Rowntree gets back into the fold. And of course there's a crowning appointment, and that is defensive supremo Sean Edwards, who stayed on with France till the end of his contract at the end of the World Cup 2027. Now in his 60s, he takes his final job, his big hurrah, again being a proud Englishman, bringing all his defensive knowledge into that role. And the team is built around the under-20s World Champions players. They win a Grand Slam in their second year of being together. They go into the World Cup in 2031 as number ones in the USA, and the country is buzzing. I'm going to stop the story there. That's my dream scenario for the next 7 years. So that's my dream scenario for the next 7 years. Feel free to rate me on a scale of 1 to 10 on how deluded I am. But wouldn't it be good if something like that actually happened? Anyway, guys, if you like that sort of thing, please like, please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.